Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Doing Business in Bentonville. I'm Andy Wilson, and I'm the executive leader, and it is so great to have you to join us today. I want to say thank you also for all the wonderful things that you're doing to help support our growth. I've just been learning that we're now in 36 countries. Thank you for that. We appreciate that. People are listening and watching us so around the world, and we want to keep growing. We want to check all those countries off, Hey, I got a great guest today. Let me introduce you. Let's just get straight into it. Chris Sheldon, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Andy.
Man, it is so good. I will tell you, I have learned so much already from this guy. We've had great conversations on the phone and Zoom and whatever, and now we get him in the studio, and you're going to love what we're going to talk about because it's going to be broad and deep, and so it's so much to talk about. So, Chris, what a day. We are here, and we're going to get into this but wow, Walmart, did they ever have a release? Oh, man, what a release they had today on sales and profit.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit like Barry Bonds. Every time they're up to the plate, they hit and they win, and I think we saw that in Q2. It was just a double down of what they did in Q1 and Q4 prior.
Right.
They're going to continue to double down on the fundamentals. Basically every part of their business that they were trying to grow and reduce costs on, they succeeded on. So I think they've got a formula that really works for this economy, and if they keep doing it, it kind of feels like the sky's the ceiling.
That's right. So you can check those earnings out online, and we'll get back to that because we're going to talk about some other retailers too beginning today. But Chris, I really want you to talk about your company, CommerceIQ. That is such an interesting company. What I know already, I want to know a lot more than I know our viewers do. So why don't you talk about two things while we get into this? Let's just talk more about you, okay? Because I want our viewers and audience to get to know you. Then let's get into your company. Then we will get into all the stuff about your company, from services to product to plant to brand awareness, all that. Okay?
Sounds great.
Tell our audience about who you are.
So I'm Chris Sheldon. I lead our retailer partnerships team here at CommerceIQ. What that basically means is that I partner with each of our individual retailers that we, as an API tech provider, work with. So that's Amazon, Walmart, Instacart, Kroger, all the way down to Piggly Wiggly. They don't actually have an API network, but should they, I would be the person to start that process. I really act as the quarterback for all of our teams. So our product teams interfacing with their product teams, working directly with Walmart Connect. Good. Walmart Luminate APIs, those kinds of things. I work with our marketing teams to coordinate the way that we work together to serve our joint customers across the board. And then on top of that, I support kind of all of our go-to-market motions with those retailers as well.
Right. So you really are leading the retail media for the top brands.
Exactly.
That's what you're doing, right? That's your focus.
Exactly, yeah. CommerceIQ and the way that we work with our retailers, at the end of the day, it's all about joint success for our suppliers. If we're making our suppliers look good, then our clients are happy, our retailers are happy, and that's what drives the business at the end of the day.
Great. Well, again, welcome, and we're glad you're here. I got a feeling about this guys. We're going to try to get him back on DVB. I will tell you, because you enjoy and learn about what not only CommerceIQ does, but what he's going to share today with us about this whole space is going to be so interesting. So let's just jump straight into CommerceIQ and talk about your company, and then we'll just go through and talk about what your company does.
Yeah, so I think let's start with kind of the ethos of CommerceIQ. CommerceIQ has been around for nearly a decade, but working in the e-commerce space specifically for about 6. What we are founded on, the principle that really birthed our idea, was Amazon had moved from a place where they had traditional vendor managers who were issuing purchase orders and contracts to using an algorithm. The very first, what was back then called the Amazon algorithm, or A1. Vendors went from being able to plan and talk to a human being about how to plan their business and grow it to having an AI essentially decide, or an algorithm decide, how their business was going to grow. And if you're familiar with how algorithms and AIs work these days, they move incredibly quickly. And so what used to be a pretty slow-paced process, you know how planning can work for quarterly planning, yearly planning, all of a sudden an AI was making purchase order decisions every week. And all of a sudden the number of decisions that an e-com team had to make went from a couple hundred a month to tens of thousands a day. And as that complexity increased, we began to see that really the retail landscape and the e-commerce landscape were just getting more complicated. The job that used to be just one category manager was now the job of 5 people, and now reported to a VP of e-commerce, and now had a team of 20 people. And those people were overworked, they were stressed, and they were really frustrated with their jobs. And so CommerceIQ's founding principle is to basically build an operating system for e-commerce. What we want to do is take all of those menial tasks that need to be automated and can be easily done by machine learning, automate those for those teams, and then empower those team members to make smart decisions based on that data, and then go and grow their business. At the end of the day, we answer to the VP of e-commerce, and our goal is to drive the top line of their business. And all of our tools start from making those team members' lives easy to, at the end of the day, making meaningful growth. We're technically startup unicorns. We were valued at $1 billion in 2022, backed by Madrona, SoftBank, and a couple others as well. We work with 900 retailers and probably a little more than 200 brands today across the globe. And really, at the end of the day, we're not just an ad tech company. We're really view ourselves as someone who's going to be around here the same way that you view some of the companies who are integral to the Walmart space and integral to how you just do business here. The same way that the tools that power a line review aren't going anywhere anytime soon. That's what we're trying to build for the entirety of e-commerce across the board.
Wonderful. It's exciting. Let's take 3 retailers and let's talk about those. Let's take Walmart, let's take Amazon, Kroger. You mentioned those. So talk about each one of those and how you work with those companies and share that with our group.
Yeah, so really at the end of the day, CommerceIQ's bread and butter is accessing retailer APIs, which you're unfamiliar with the tech space. An API is just an endpoint that has some set of data available for us to access. So you may log on to Luminate today and download a report in the same way an API can call that data and pull it back. All of the retailers within this space have those APIs, and so we take those and then build automated actions and management systems on top of that so that we can help them. So in the case of Walmart, a really simple one is, say you need to go edit the bids of your keywords. A big supplier here, we're just underneath Mondelez. They may have 20 to 30 brands, which may have thousands of keywords within their account. In order to make sure those are optimized, you need to make 10 to 20,000 actions a day. If I were to go task everyone in this building right now with doing that manually, they may be here in another year finishing doing all of those tasks. And so what we do is we build smart automation systems to smartly, based on your goals, adjust those bids to drive your results. In the same way, when we work with Amazon, we have access to a little bit more data. And so we can actually take not only advertising APIs, but we can access actually vendor central APIs as well. So say you've got a product that only has 1,000 units left in a DC. Well, you don't really want to run advertising against that if it's going to go out of stock in a week, right? We can smartly turn off your advertising for those ASINs or SKUs so that they don't run out of stock immediately. And really, it's about taking data sets that it seems obvious. You're like, duh, I wouldn't want to advertise a SKU that's going to be out of stock. Or obviously, I want to optimize a bid. The issue isn't the logic. The issue is doing it at scale. Take any single one of these retailers, and maybe that's a manageable task. But when you're talking about an omni-commerce organization that each of the big suppliers here have, you're talking about teams of 20, 30, 40, 50 people who are managing, millions of SKUs at the end of the day. And that kind of scale is just impossible to deal with at a human level. And so what we're trying to build in this space is to make those humans do more, do it better, and do it faster than what they were doing the day before.
Right. And you do the same with Kroger.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. We work with Kroger in the exact same way. And, the actual means of how their retail media networks are different, set up in different ways. And so the automations that we offer are different. On Kroger, they just moved ad platforms to KAP, or the Kroger advertising platform. And so we're in the process of rebuilding all of those tools as they've changed tech partners. Right. But that's just a part of how we support our clients across the board.
One of the things that Kroger's been in the news months now about is the acquisition that they've been working on. Now, as we've watched that go along and where it is today, and did you do some prep based on the possibility of the acquisition? And what do you think about where the acquisition situation is today? And can you talk about that?
Yeah, it's certainly a really interesting market. When you think about there are 2 and arguably 3 leaders in the retail media market right now. Amazon is about 5 years ahead of anybody. Walmart closely trailing them by maybe 2 or 3 years. And then Instacart, in terms of ad tech, very closely behind Walmart. Once you get beyond them, you're talking about several years of gap in terms of time it takes to develop everything that the tech that we're used to. And so when you can combine 2 dev teams and you can combine the experience, one, you're not only just combining 2 different teams working on 2 separate products, but you're actually combining the ad spend for that platform. So when you think about what allows Walmart to invest at the degree that they're able to do is because they have hundreds of millions of dollars flowing through Walmart Connect every day. Kroger and Albertsons are seeing probably 10% or less of that coming through their doors. And so when you double the amount of investment you're seeing coming through your retail media network, it's a lot easier to hire developers and programmers and team members to actually manage and develop those things. And so from our perspective, it's one less retail media network to work with if they merge together, and one less tech stack that we have to integrate with, which is super exciting. But I think for our customers, it means that we can build deeper products. We can make the offering that we do have even better for them, offer more tools, build a deeper relationship. Whether it's going to be good for the brands or not, I think is still TBD with how those two organizations merge together.
Right. I know I've been watching it closely because it would be huge and be interesting to watch that, how that develops. And I know all of us in retail have been watching that. Now, let's do this. I do want to get to Amazon in a bit, because I want to talk about their Prime Day. I know you've got great analysis around that. We'll get into that. We'll back into that in a few moments. So hang on with that. Now, but let's talk about this. Our viewers today, they're in this space that you're talking about, in the technology space, the analytical space. Now, talk about how you could help them. Okay, how are companies that don't have your space, your information and your services, how would you go about that? So people are like, okay, hey Chris, I like what you're saying. I need this. My people are overworked. I need to grow. We are growing, etc. So how do you go about the entering into, if you will, new customers? Okay.
Yeah, so I think it depends on the kind of product that you're purchasing from us. CommerceIQ has kind of 3 flagship products. Amazon Copilot, which is an all-inclusive tool to sell on Amazon. Additionally, we have our digital shelf and analytics tool, and we have our retail media management tool. Put simply, each one of those, Amazon Copilot helps you sell more, better, and faster on Amazon. Digital shelf analytics is all about understanding what's going on across all of your retailers all the time on the digital shelf, double checking your content and making sure that your content is okay. And then retail media obviously is about making sure that your retail media dollars are correct. Most of our deals that we do with suppliers here in the Bentonville area are all 3 of those products together. But if you're sitting on a content team and are having trouble making sure that your content is matching your PIM, I know I probably just triggered some folks right now with dealing with content mismatch. That's something that we can help with as well. And if you're on the retail media team for those teams, we're more than happy to. We work with both agencies and brands. So if you've got a media team in-house, we're more than happy to enable them, bring them up to speed. But if you've got an agency partner of record that you want to integrate with as well, that's certainly an offering that we can do. We also work with certain ProServe customers. So if you need to have PIM set up for you, those kinds of things, we are able to do that as well, should that be an issue. So
good, great. And now we're gonna add some stuff to our website so to make it easier for you to contact Chris and others inside the organization to get much more detail about their services and brands, products, et cetera, et cetera. Now, let's talk Prime for a moment. Okay, I mean, Amazon recently had their Prime Day. And talk about when this was over, what your company did, how you assessed this, looked at it, what were the winners, what were the losers, and just walk us through that, because I think it's very interesting reading. I know what I read it today and before we met, and because you sent it to me, but I really did learn a lot.
Yeah.
So take that apart for us.
Yeah, I think Prime Day at its core has really changed the dynamic. So it's no longer in its own void of Prime Day anymore. I mean, we saw that Target Circle Week ran in the exact same week. Walmart ran deal days the entire week leading up to Prime Day and during. So a lot of the stuff that I'll share today is Prime Day specific, because we have access to a vast amount of data specific to our Amazon suppliers who work there and have access to essentially over 200 plus Amazon Vendor Central accounts, and as well as their data, so we can amalgamate all of that. I think the thing that sticks out the most to me was that ROAS across all categories was down and ad spend was up. So return on ad spend, essentially every dollar that you put into the Amazon advertising ecosystem, how many dollars are coming back out in terms of actual dollar sales. That was down around 12% this year across the amalgamated all of our categories, and ad spend was up 6%. So what that's telling me is that advertisers on Amazon are leaning in, saying this is a competitive period, I have to win this. And what that's leading to is, without increased traffic, the actual units that you're moving are going down. And so Prime Day is already a very expensive expenditure for any brand that's going on. You're not only just paying to run the deal, so you're already talking about markdowns. Amazon's really pushing for between 30 to 60% markdowns, which at retail margins can be the entirety of your profit margin for a SKU. Now, on top of that, you're paying for the right to serve a Prime Day deal, right? It's not free to mark down your product. You have to pay for that markdown. And then 3, with the way they transition their ecosystem, if the deal isn't one of the lucky 12 selected of the entirety of Amazon, you now have to pay to show your customers those deals online. And what that's leading to is those repressed overall return on ad spend numbers. And so I think the suppliers that we're talking to, they're still seeing incredible growth. Some of our hardlines clients are doing, 20, 30% of their total global sales in a year in just that 1 week period. So they're seeing incredible sales, but in terms of the actual performance year over year, it's not been the same kind of growth engine that they're hoping for in terms of the overall investment.
What does that tell you? When you step back and look at that, what's your observations about that? Is it from a standpoint beyond the analytics to it? Is there a trend going on in the country? What's happening?
I think you're totally right. And I think, we're going to talk about Walmart earnings later, but I think this is a great time to talk about shoppers they're deal fatigued right now. I mean, think about how many we're about to head into, it's now called Cyber 11, right? We're heading into, that used to be just 1 day. Now it's 11 days.
Yeah.
Prime Day is the second Prime Day that happens. It used to just be 1 day. We're in an environment now where customers are already kind of scraping the barrel, trying to make their dollars last as long as they can. And so what Prime Day kind of used to be was this like joyous holiday to go pick up, a nice new TV, a pair of headphones, this kind of fun thing. It's now one savings holiday amongst 60 others in only 365 days of the year. So you're talking about a deal day, 1 in every 5 days of the year, it somewhat feels like. And so I think consumers are just getting tired of all of the different deal days. They can't keep up. It's a pain in the butt to find out where the best deals are. You no longer can just log on to Amazon and go, I know all of the best deals are here. Sometimes they're at Target, sometimes they're at Kroger, sometimes they're at Walmart. That's a lot more work for the customer versus kind of the joy of logging on to Amazon and saying, oh, wow, that speaker is 50% off. I know that's the best deal, right? Because the retail partners around are making those dealers match those deals elsewhere. And so I think consumers are just fatigued at this point.
I think you make a great observation because I know when personally in Prime Day, when it hit, I normally am much deeper in looking. I did not do that this time. To your point, I think it's fatigue. I really do. I think a lot of us are there, and so as a media company, if you will, what do you do about that? How do you talk to Amazon or a customer when your customers say, okay, people are getting fatigued?
Yeah. So I think
what's the next step?
So I think it's kind of on 2 sides of the equation. So one is, as people get more fatigued with a certain deal period or window, the other periods of the year become even more important. So as you're heading up into Prime Day, that can be a really tough period to win. Advertising dollars swell during those windows, and it can be really expensive to win. And so all of a sudden, that makes kind of the lull of what usually is Q2 an incredibly important sales window when it previously wasn't, because you can't rely on recovering all of Q2 sales based on a good Prime Day anymore. So I think part of it is just reallocating dollars. And we've seen this for a long time, advertisers pulling spend from the Christmas period and moving it to different quarters where it's cheaper and easier. I mean, in Christmas, it can easily be like the CPMs can be double what they are. Same thing we're starting to see with Prime Day. Those CPMs can be 50, 60, 70% higher than what you'd pay literally the day before to serve ads. And so from just a raw media serving perspective, it means that you've got to be really focused on what kind of days and weeks you're serving. But secondarily, it means that you've got to be way more optimized with your media. If you're setting aggressive bids that are far too high and you're getting rinsed during Prime Day, I mean, we have brands that spend almost 50% of their advertising budget in 2 different weeks. So the 2 Prime Days of the year, right? If those 2 days are bad and you don't have access to the right data, you don't make the right decisions, and say you're off by 10, 20%, that difference in performance can ruin an entire year's P&L, right? And so I think advertisers are realizing that. We have some great clients in hardlines who will spend all day locked in a room for 2 days straight, staring at CommerceIQ, making decisions on what inventory they're shipping, what SKUs or ASINs they're advertising, and really treating it kind of like the Super Bowl for those brands. And so I think you're just seeing an increased focus on, if we are going to make the investment, you've got to be all the way in. No longer is the days of, we'll run 1 Prime Day deal, we'll kind of see how it goes. You're either all the way in or you're kind of watching from the sidelines. What we're seeing a lot of brands do.
Now, do you see that across all markets or all retailers? Are you seeing that? So we'll talk about Walmart in a moment, but other retailers are on the fatigue side.
Yeah, I think you're seeing it as well. You've seen Target in the news, and both Kroger as well announced, I think it was almost 1,500 SKUs that they cut prices on, just to go back kind of being a Bentonville, going back to kind of EDLP, or at least some version of that. And so I think you're beginning to see that start to kick in, where they're realizing that price is going to be an incredibly important part. But I think at least for like Target Circle Week and Walmart Deal Days, those events are so new to those customers that I don't think the kind of fatigue is set in. Walmart does a pretty incredible job of keeping those deals live for long periods of time. They're not as aggressive as Amazon deals often are, so they're not like the 60-70% discount range, but they're good deals on already, very well-priced items. And Target the same way. They're discounting items that are kind of last minute, spur purchase, and they're not competing directly, right? You're not seeing Target really try and win in like the ETS space or the electronic space specifically. You're seeing them focus on some of their kind of side items in the alleys. So I think that's beginning to help them, not having the exact same inventory. It's one of the few advantages that you can really see. I think CPGs in the food space are also benefiting from that, because Amazon Fresh is a much smaller business overall compared to Walmart's grocery. Even Target's grocery business is significantly larger than that. And so you're kind of seeing, oddly, the grocers are kind of getting into the deal space for groceries, which Amazon cannot compete with in any meaningful way.
Yeah, right. And I think you're making such a great point there. And because, you take the grocery companies, and we've talked Target, Kroger so far. You're right. They don't have to compete with Amazon. They don't. They can do their own thing, and Amazon cannot win there, I think, to your point, right? Walmart can win there. We'll talk about Walmart, and let's get into that. We're going to go to Walmart, but I want you to hang with us, because we're going to get into future trends in a bit, and you want to hear this, what's going on. And then we also want to talk a bit more with Chris. So let's go to Walmart. And of course, Walmart released today. I mean, it's, when you see it, hear this or see this, it's going to be past. But today, Walmart released their earnings, and we talked at the top of the show a bit about it. But wow, what a release!
Yeah, and I think the staggering thing for me was 21% e-commerce growth. I mean, it almost seems impossible to be hitting double-digit growth in e-commerce anyway is already pretty incredible. But to see 21%, for our space, we talk about this a lot. There is a flywheel effect that occurs with the retailer. As they grow their e-com sales, as their websites grow in traffic, they have more advertising to sell. And so if e-com traffic is up 21%, you can see how Walmart Connect was able to grow their business 30% year on year. And so I think those two things are kind of inextricably tied. As more people are going to Walmart.com, they're able to sell more advertising and get more revenue. And obviously with Walmart Connect's incredible revenue numbers, that's impacting that bottom line profit that Walmart was looking for this quarter.
So from your chair, and you look at and analyze Walmart from a technology standpoint, a local standpoint, and you just mentioned about the e-commerce growth. When you look at that, what do you contribute that to? What pops up? Like, man, because you're in that space. You live in that space 24/7. So what pops up?
Yeah, I think number one is just the incredible experience Walmart has created with Click and Collect and Walmart in-home. I'm a Walmart in-home customer, so someone puts my groceries in my fridge for me. Yeah. But even if not, we still use Walmart delivery and Walmart pickup all the time.
Right.
Walmart calls it the ultimate cheat code for a busy mom. It is truly the way that they're able to drive e-commerce growth. And I think it's the reason you see Kroger, Albertsons, Target, and some of the mid-tier grocers falling behind, because they haven't invested in that kind of almost perfect, seamless experience. I think people still run into some issues with some substitutions they don't want, but that experience of being able to buy online, do all your shopping there, and just show up or have it show up at your house, that experience alone is the competitive advantage that is beating the socks off every other competitor in that space.
Do you think the consumer, and you mentioned this earlier, and we all know with inflation and all, everyone's trying to stretch the dollar. You think Walmart's winning in that space too, about customers saying, okay, I feel good about this because I'm stretching my dollar, I'm getting good value, I'm getting good prices, good quality products. what do you think a lot of that's also driving this behind this?
Yeah, I think this was a really clear example of Walmart's culture aligning exactly to the time and the need of the American customer, right? We know it here. Merchants are drilled to make sure that, they get the best for their customers, and that everyday low price is a meaningful difference. And so I think customers are responding to that. That's been a clear focus. You've seen Doug talking about it pretty consistently, that price is going to be the most important way that they can impact an everyday customer's life. And so knowing that you're saving money on milk and eggs and basic staples means that you feel better. And I think what Walmart's doing incredibly well is that they're tying those savings and, the basics, milk and eggs and those kinds of things, and converting that to growth into some of their other areas like home accessories, decor, furniture, all of those areas. They're saying, hey, we're saving you this money. Why go shop anywhere else for those things? We already cover all the bases.
Walmart recently had the Walmart shareholders meeting, the Walmart Associate Celebration, and something you talked about, go back to brands for a minute, but Better Goods brand that Walmart launched, and they shared with us at the shareholders meeting, the Walmart Celebration meeting. And most of the goods on Better Goods is under $5.
Yeah.
$5 or under. And what quality? I mean, we got to sample a lot of it. It was good.
Yeah.
And I was very happy about the price. I think, all that's going on from e-commerce, but you still got to be a great merchant at the bottom. All right. You got to have a great merchandise. You got to have a great price. And you've got, and I think Walmart is really, like you said, is spread that throughout the store. Yeah, it feels good. And customers, shoppers, they're looking for that. They have to have that today in this, in the inflationary period. Thank goodness inflation apparently is coming down a bit, but it's still high. It's still expensive. And so anything else about Walmart? And the other thing too that I read, and I know you read, that Walmart really added more third-party sellers to the marketplace. So any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think I'll give a quick shout out. I think Michael Lieber was on this podcast.
He was, yeah.
I think that guy is doing an incredible job empowering suppliers to kind of figure out the Walmart process. I think there were a lot of third-party suppliers in the U.S. and in China who were trying to figure out, how do I get into this marketplace? The culture is different. The systems are different. I think companies like them are doing an incredible job of facilitating the process to get there. But I also just think people are like, as traffic grows to Walmart.com, that becomes a more viable marketplace. I caught myself buying a bunch of home and garden tools today that weren't in stock at the actual store, and I bought them in Marketplace. And I did not even realize that I had bought a non-Walmart branded product. And so I think as they've begun to kind of seamlessly integrate those brands in, more and more brands are realizing that they can win there and make meaningful market share gains across the board.
Right. I think you're right. I think it's good. And if I was another retailer out there, I'd really be studying Walmart. I'd be studying how they're doing it. I'd be learning from it. From a standpoint of other retailers and potential new customers for you, how do you help them? When what's your process? I mean, someone contacts you and they're not a client of yours. What's the process you go through?
Yeah, so the first step we're always going to do with you guys, and anytime we're connecting with a potential prospect, is just to understand like the need, like what are the core issues that are happening across your organization. We've had a lot of time to spend with a lot of different organizations, especially within CPG. It's one of our specialties, but across hardlines and others, we have a lot of knowledge of what you probably are experiencing, but our sales and account teams are going to spend a lot of time understanding, frankly, just like what are the key issues that you're running into? Is it content related issues? Is it retail media related issues? Is it a combination of all of those things? And like, what are the kind of core issues? And then from there, once you're onboarded, our customer success team is going to do an incredible job doing the basics of teaching how to use our platform, uncovering all of the value opportunities and enabling you the entire way. And so those two things are kind of key. Anybody can sell you a tech tool, but if you don't get taught how to use it, if you don't get the deep enablement that's required, then you bought a Ferrari and didn't get a Ferrari driver to actually use it, right? Yeah. So that's a really important thing. We've got world-class customer success teams that are able to take you from, I've never driven a car before, to I feel really confident using this high-power tool that I know can drive value for my business. So
you got the support, the help, and education behind your products. Sure.
Exactly.
Wonderful. Great. Okay. What's the future look like? Okay, because in my conversation with you, which I've said already a couple times about how interesting it is, visiting with you. And you seemed a bit like a futurist to me, too, when I visit with you. Talk about that.
Yeah, the future in e-commerce and in this space is just a kind of Pandora's box of like what's available to us. On one hand, we've got like the advent of Gen AI. We're extremely interested. Our website is commerceiq.ai. There's a reason that's in the website URL. We've been focused on using AI for a long time, and the advent of Gen AI unlocks what we think are some possibly incredible opportunities and also some possibly frustrating ones. And so we're really excited about what that can possibly do. I think I first want to address, as an AI company, an AI first company, we believe that we're not going to replace a single human being. If you work at a Walmart supplier, if you are on Amazon.com, there's not a single tool that we offer that's going to replace a member of your team. What we believe is that AI is going to augment you so that what you used to be able to do in 1 week, you can do in 1 day. Some of those tasks, some of those reporting things that you've been doing, the PowerPoint that takes you a week to put together, it's those kinds of tasks that we want to automate and make possible via AI so that you are doing the things that you love. I don't know a single analyst that I've ever worked with who's excited about putting together that PowerPoint for the executive meeting, right? That person doesn't exist. And so what we view generative AI as a main gateway to is enabling some of the things that no one wants to do to be done by something that can simply scan what you've done before, take a look at the reporting you're generating, and then generate it week on and week out and give you some canned insights that you can grab. And so I think that's where we really view AI heading. Like, there are obviously much more powerful and incredible applications that are getting dreamed up. But in the reality, like the next 2 years, Gen AI, I think, is going to start to take away some of the, what does this data say, right? Like, here's a giant data set. What can you summarize this quickly for me? Can you show me a reporting deck that's based on things that I've done before? So that's going to be a really kind of powerful application. And we're already testing that with customers today, and they're loving it. I can't tell you how many people have told me they just don't want to create another PowerPoint. It's amazing to hit download and have it just be there in the exact format you always deliver. I think the other side of AI that most people aren't talking about is that, most of the wrappers were using ChatGPT or Google's Llama, those kinds of things. Those currently don't cost most customers anything today, right? AI is very expensive. We saw in the news, OpenAI was burning, I think, $5 billion a year in losses.
Right.
Currently today, we have a lot of companies who are offering AI services with no revenue model, and they aren't being charged anything by these companies. And so as the market continues to develop, eventually there's going to start to become a cost for AI. And right now, AI is all value add for the customer, for the business, for everybody. But the moment that there's a cost model there, you've got to deliver a significantly greater amount of value. And so I think that we're really watching this space to see what happens as when AI goes from, it's free and it can write an email from me, to this costs $1 million a year. What kind of value are you actually getting out of a tool like that? That's going to be a really interesting space. And at CommerceIQ, we're really committed to making sure when those things do cost money, that they're incredibly powerful for our customers in the first place.
Wonderful. Wow, this is great. Chris Sheldon, CommerceIQ. I feel like we only scratched the surface with you today. There's so much here in the space. And I'm just going to say I want him to come back on, and I want to talk more about this soon, because I think what you have shared with us today and what your company does, what you do, and this is the future of e-commerce. I mean, and like you said, it's going to get extremely complicated. It's already extremely complicated. It's probably going to get more complicated.
Sure is.
And it's got to have someone like you and your company to be able to come in and help us, because at the end of the day, it's revenue, profitability. And how do you get through all that to sell your products, whatever that product is, and get it in front of that customer, and of course the best price, margin, and all that. So
exactly.
It sounds like you guys are really doing a good job, and so congratulations to what you're doing. And then we just really hope the best for you and your company. Any closing thoughts you have for our guests today?
Yeah, a couple of things. We've got 2 freebies for you at the end of this episode. First is our CommerceIQ Chrome plugin. If you're ever browsing Amazon.com and want to see some extra insights on your PDP content, those kinds of things, we'll link that down below. It's free to download, free to use. It's powered by Gen AI to show you additional content, how you might be able to optimize those within Amazon.com. And then additionally, we've got our Secrets of Prime Day 2024 report that just released today on August 15th. You'll be able to download that also for free. Breaks down a couple of different categories, as well as has some executive insights for you to circulate with your team. Like I said, both of those will be free afterwards, but we're really excited to share some more knowledge with you. If you're looking for more consistent content like this, you can follow me, Chris Sheldon, on LinkedIn. It's linkedin.com/Chris Sheldon. And you can also follow our founder, who's extremely active on LinkedIn as well. That's Guru Harihan, linkedin.com/Guru-Harihan. Find him, we'll link him below as well. Both awesome sources for kind of e-commerce news and what's going on and what CommerceIQ's perspective is as well. Thank you so much, Andy, for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, Chris, it has been a pleasure. And we'll make sure we get all this information for you online on our website, dbbnwa.com. It'll be there. Of course, we're Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and so we're there on your favorite social media channels. So we're there, or whatever you stream, we're there. And so you'll find all this there. Chris, man, thank you. It's been really a pleasure to have you, and we're going to have you back on, and we'll talk more, okay?
Pleasure's all.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Again, thank you for joining us today. Have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.